we're going to do the first part of the 9C notes. Now, part of this is going to be on this one. Another part of the same thing will be in the MyLabs Plus graphing tool. That's what I'll need to show you in the counter one to this 9C first part. There'll be a 9C video first part. And then the second part will be all the word problems. But we're going to be graphing some parabolas here. Now, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to be putting them into an equation. So we have x squared minus 1. We have an x value of negative 2. So all we do is negative 2 squared minus 1, which is 3. We're just going to put negative 1 squared minus 1, and we get 0. 0 squared minus 1 is negative 1. 1 squared minus 1 is 0. And then 2 squared minus 1 is 3. So I just fill in my values. If you notice, this says 3 points. It's not the question worth. What they'll do is they'll want you to use 3 points, and we can use any 3 of these points. It doesn't matter. There's a graphing tool that says using 3 points. The other one says using 2 points. You can see right here, this is the one that says 2 points. So I'm going to graph this first one here. We're going to talk about this more, but 0, 1 is the vertex here. Negative 1, 0 is a point. Negative 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And you'll notice as I graph these are, a parabola is symmetrical. So if I were to just draw my line or my parabola here, it is symmetrical. And what it's symmetrical around is the the axis of symmetry. And the axis of symmetry goes right along the vertex. Right here is the vertex. So if I were to draw it, I would just draw a dashed line here. And that's a vertical line. So we all know vertical lines are just x equals something. In this case, it's x equals 0. And I will show you how to do this on the MyLabs Plus graphing tool. Some basic things about the parabola. This is the generic formula. A and then parentheses x minus h squared plus k. The vertex is always hk. Where the h comes from is I let inside the parenthesis equals 0. So if I were to let x minus h equals 0, I add h to each side, so the x value must be h, and that's why it's there. And the k value always just goes right there. And we'll do a couple versions of this, and you'll get it pretty quickly. This next one here, ax squared. We're trying to set the x squared to 0. Whenever you don't see anything in parentheses like this, the vertex is always x equals 0. Just like this last question here, it was just x squared minus 1. There was nothing in parentheses, so the vertex is right there. And when they do have something in parentheses, it's whatever makes inside the parentheses equal to 0, and then plus whatever is there. In this case, there's nothing being added to it. That's why the y is 0. So this next one, there's nothing in parentheses. So my vertex is 0, 0, because there's nothing being added to this. So it's 0, 0. The axis of symmetry is always x equals whatever the x value is, which is 0 again. This time it's a negative sign. So if I find another point, that jumped on me. So it's x equals 0. So now when I graph this, I need one more point. I always try to pick an x value that is close to the vertex. 1, positive 1 is close, so I'm just going to use that. So I'm going to let x equals negative 1. So that means positive 1, sorry. Negative 5 times 1 squared. So negative 5 times 1 is negative 5. So my next point is 1, negative 5. There'll be a graphing tool where you're going to only need 2 points, but you must graph the vertex first. So the vertex is 0, 0. Then I have 1, negative 5. So I go 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's my other point. And then the program will just automatically graph it for you. And I'll just draw a quick sketch of it right there. The computer will do a better job. But I do want you to notice this one is negative 5x squared, and the graph is pointing down. The first one was a positive, and it's pointing up. So when it's pointing up, this is the lowest value, or a minimum. Here, when it's going facing down, this is the highest point, so that's a maximum. And we will be doing several versions of this. Let's go to the next page. We're going to find the vertex, the axis of symmetry, the maximum and minimum values. This is like number 7 in the homework. The vertex. Well, what makes this equal to 0? Well, negative 4 does. What is being attached to that? So it's negative 4, negative 5. That is the vertex. The axis of symmetry is always x equals whatever the x value is. So that's x equals negative 4. Now, outside the square term, this is positive. So now positive, that means it's going up. So it's a minimum. And the minimum value is always the y value here. So the minimum value is negative 5. And I will need to find another point on there. So let's do, again, we want to pick a number that's close to negative 4. So I'm going to pick negative 3. So I've put negative 3 in there. It's negative 3 plus 4 squared minus 5. Negative 3 plus 4 is 1. So it's 1 squared minus 5. 1 minus 5 is negative 4. So my next point is negative 3, negative 4. And again, the only time you need 3 points is that very first graph or two. Every other time, they're going to want you to plot the vertex first, then just one other point, and it will automatically do it for you. So now, I'm going to go down here. Again, the graphs are down lower. So what I need to do is I need to plot my vertex, which is negative 4, negative 5. Negative 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. My other point is negative 3, negative 4. And you can see right away, it's going up. So my minimum value is right here. There's my negative 5. Now they also want me to draw the axis of symmetry. That's x equals negative 4. So I go to here. I draw my dashed line. And there's my vertex of symmetry. Please be careful when you read the directions on this. Sometimes they'll ask you to draw the vertex of symmetry. Sometimes they will not. Okay, my next question here. Again, what's the vertex? Well, what makes this 0? Well, the x value is negative 2. That's my y value. There's my vertex, negative 2, 3. Axis of symmetry is x equals negative 2. This is a positive number, so it is going up, so we have another minimum value. And the y value is the minimum value. So now this one, again, I want to pick one that's close to negative 2. Now I'm going to pick 0 in this case. I always do like to pick 0 because it works out pretty easy. 0 plus 2 squared plus 3. I can't forget the 1/4. 1/4, well, 2 squared is times 4 plus 3 with the 4's cancel, and I get 4. So my second point is 0, 4. So I'm going to plot the vertex, negative 2, 3, negative 2, 1, 2, 3, and 0, 4. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. If you notice, this graph is a little wider than the other one. The other one was more narrow. In pre-calculus and calculus, you'll start talking about more the width and the narrowness of these things. And it is going up just like it should be. The vertex of symmetry is x equals negative 2, so I just go to here. There's my vertex of symmetry. Alrighty. So when they put it in that form, it's pretty easy. Now, they're going to start putting them not in the standard form. And to find the vertex's x value is always negative b over 2a. That's a great formula you're going to be using a lot of. When I'm looking in here, x squared minus 2x minus 3, if you remember, it's ax squared bx plus c. So if it's negative b over 2a, a equals 1, and b equals negative 2. So I have negative negative 2 over 2 times 1. Now that says positive 2 over positive 2, so that's 1. The vertex is x equals 1. So now to find my y value, I have to put it into the function. So that's 1 squared minus 2 times 1 minus 3. 1 minus 2 minus 3 is negative 4. So my vertex is negative 4. The axis of symmetry is just x equals 1. And this is a positive one. So again, this is a minimum. And my y value is negative 4. Now again, to graph this, I need another point. So now we have the vertex is 1. So 0 is close to that. So I'd pick 0. And again, that's going to be 0 squared minus 2 times 0 minus 3. Well, 0 is nothing. Minus 2 times 0 is nothing. Minus 3. So it is negative 3. So my other point will be 0, negative 3. So 1, negative 4 is 0, negative 3. So I go over to here. Here's 1. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's my 1, negative 4. And then 0, negative 3 is my other point. And again, the computer will graph this perfectly for you. If I graph the vertex of symmetry, it goes right along the x value. And there we go. There's another graph done. I'm hoping you're starting to get this a little better now. Here we have this next one. It's written backwards. It's really negative x squared minus 3. Now, we've already talked about when there's nothing in the parentheses, the vertex, the x value is always x equals 0. Now, just to prove that, in this question, a equals negative 1, b, there is no b, so that's 0, c equals negative 3. So if it's negative b over 2a, that's 0 over 2 times negative 1. Well, 0 over anything is 0. So my vertex is 0, comma, well, if I do 0 minus 3, that's negative 3. Axis of symmetry is x equals 0. Now this time we have a negative in front of the x squared, so that is a maximum. And the maximum value is negative 3. I still need another point. So again, I'm going to pick one close to 0, so I'm going to do 1. So I'm going to let x equal 1, so that's negative 3 minus 1 squared. Negative 3 minus 1 is negative 4. So my other point will be 1, negative 4. So when I plot my point here, 0, negative 3 is my vertex. And then 1, negative 4 is this. And remember, it's negative, so it's going down. So I got to draw my picture like this. And then I'm not going to draw my vertex. It doesn't always ask for it. So please be careful when you're reading your directions there. Okay. So now these will be the last questions I'm going to do for this section or for this part of the video. We're just going to find the x-intercept and the y-intercept. This is just like Unit 5. To find the x-intercept, you got to let y equal 0. To find the y-intercept, you got to let x equal 0. So we are going to find the x-intercepts first here. So now, there are two ways of doing this. This first one, we will obviously let y equal 0. So it's 0 equals negative x squared plus 4x plus 12. So I could try to factor it. If I take out the negative 1, and then I say, what factors of negative 12 add up to negative 4? Well, that's negative 6 and positive 2. And remember, this is equal to 0, so I get x equals 6 or negative 2. So those are my two x values, 6 and negative 2. So I'd have to do 6 comma 0, and then negative 2 comma 0. Now, the other way of doing this question, I'm going to try to do this right below here. Change my color here. Is I could use the quadratic formula. I thought I changed the color, but it didn't. But all right, so if I do again, remember it's negative b plus or minus b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And that's under a square root. So in this one, we could use either one of these. I'm going to use the first one. So b is equal to 4. So it's negative 4 plus or minus 4 squared minus 4 times negative 1 times 12. Alrighty, so now this, if I do this out here, negative 4 plus or minus the square root of 16 plus, what's that, 48. Okay, so now it's all over 2 times negative 1. So we get negative 4 plus or minus the square root of 64 over negative 2. Now 64 is just 8, so I'm going to have two answers here. Kind of writing all over the place here. Didn't leave myself enough space here. Negative 4 plus 8 over negative 2, or negative 4 minus 8 over negative 2. Negative 4 plus 8, that's 4 over negative 2, which is negative 2. There's one answer. This is negative 12 over negative 2, which is positive 6. And those are the exact same answers as I got here, isn't it? And they're going to want you to write it as a point, so you got to write it as a coordinate. Now the y-intercept is always easier. When x equals 0, if I put x equal to 0 in here, that's just 0 plus 0 plus 12. So the y-intercept is 0, 12. Easy enough. Now this next one here does not factor, so I have no option but to use the quadratic formula. So again, it's negative b plus minus. B is negative 1 here. So negative negative 1 plus or minus negative 1 squared minus 4 times 3 times 15. Now these numbers get a little unfriendly here. And then all over, 2 times 3. So it's going to be 1 plus or minus the square root. If I just type that into the calculator, I get negative 179 all over 6. Now I have a negative under there, so we got a problem here. So I have to bring out the i's because they want you to use it in imaginary numbers. So now what this means is this is going to be my x-intercept. Again, remember, we let y equals 0. So my first point would be 0. And then you can type it in this way. 1 plus or minus the square root of 179i all over 6. And you can write, there's a plus or minus button on the keyboard there. Again, the y-intercept is where x equals 0. And then when I do this, if x is 0, 0 minus 0, 0 plus 15, so it's comma 15, and I am done. There'll be some examples like this to do and to practice. But that's the end of the first half of the 9C video.